Good morning YouTube. I'm starting this video at the Bangalow Farmers Markets. A wonderful place to come on a Saturday morning from about 8 AM to midday, and a lot of local farmers in the area come through and offer produce for sale. We have passion fruits, pecans. This time of year we've got a lot of root vegetables and winter vegetables. There's still some tomatoes. I'm not quite sure how they manage those, but you can see it's a really good place to visit. Tourists come here often because it's listed as a tourist attraction, but there are plenty of locals here, and even farmers can show up. All I feel I'm lacking is a linen dress, but don't worry farmers, if you're watching this, you're allowed to come here too. And you can get some things such as Jerusalem artichokes even, that you just can't get in a lot of Sydney fruit stalls. It's not only vegetables either, there's some meat, there's some soaps, there's even some plants you can grow at home yourself. So, and some flowers this week. Something pretty much for everyone. And it started as an effort to do organic produce, but what you'll find walking around here is that there is some organic produce. There's others who'll say we grow organically but we don't get certified, and there's others who'll tell you that they're pesticide free, grown naturally, and others again who'll tell you that they use sustainable farming, whatever that means. And that leads me to the subject of today's video. And boom, here we are back on the farm. Sorry for that vertical footage earlier, that was on my iPhone and did nothing but prove that I am an inexperienced YouTuber, despite having done many videos. You're looking down on Block 7. It's a pretty outlook over the sky and everything, but the top end of Block 7 there, where I've recently mowed, finally got it under control. Some of Block 7's cropped well for me this year. But getting back to our discussion, there's a joke going around the macadamia industry, or some parts of it, and the joke goes basically, what do you call an organic macadamia farmer? And the answer is a liar. Now, that's probably going to offend someone, but you know, what it's really referring to is that it's very hard to successfully be an organic macadamia farmer, because really if you do that, then you're growing food at least half for the pests, and you know, if you're lucky, you might get the other half to sell to human beings. And you know, there've been people who tried, there are organic macadamia farms around, but they're getting under increasing challenge from things like lacebug, which eats the flower, which is a critical problem because no flower means no nut, and macadamia seed weevil, also known as Sargastus weevil, where there really isn't any sort of control for that pest, and it can wreck sometimes, you know, more than 20% of a crop just by itself. It's a pest that lays its eggs in the nut, and the larvae actually feed on the nut in order to sustain themselves, and they sort of go ahead that way. So it does ruin the dream of you know, often the seed changers or tree changers who come to the macadamia industry with hopes of being an organic macadamia farmer. It's a lovely dream, but it's not really reality as far as commercial production is concerned. And you know, there are ways in which you can do things, but you know, you can't, for example, say that you're pesticide free, because really it's the pesticide side of things where things break down. You could say that you feed organically. I feed organically for the most part, and it's very sustainable. The main tool of organic feeding is chicken litter, chicken manure. But there are many other organic sources of nutrients as well. You can get a product called Organibore, which is boron, and there are other sorts of rock minerals that will give you your phosphorus and other trace elements that you need to feed these little critters. So yeah, there's a you know, there are a range of options for being more on the organic spectrum, if you like, than others. But how do you differentiate? I mean, at the end of the day, our nuts go off to processors. They all get mixed together, and when you buy a pack of macadamia nuts, some of them will have been sustainably farmed. Others will have been, you know, fed chemicals. And unless you're buying certified organic macadamias, which are very expensive due to the crop losses that you have to compensate the grower for, you know, you don't know terribly what you're eating. So what do we do with this? You know, if we can't farm organically despite the best intentions, how could we perhaps differentiate our product along the lines of how we feed, or what we do? And what is the closest practice to nature that's currently available to macadamia farmers in 2021? Now, there is a term for it. It hasn't really got a lot of consumer acceptance or recognition yet. It's called integrated pest management. What that means in a nutshell is a system by which we use the processes available in nature to minimize the impact of pests without the use of chemicals. It's not a philosophy that bans the use of chemicals where there is no other solution, and so Sargastus weevil is one of those things where we really haven't found a natural enemy for it yet. But there are measures available that certainly can reduce the impact of pests. So I don't bait for rats, for example, which a lot of macadamia orchards do. Instead, I've got owl boxes up in the trees. I'm not actually convinced the owls are using them, but there are plenty of owls around, and they keep rats on the run. Now, what can you do to help? Well, mowing is one thing. I've certainly gone through some strands of long grass in my recent mowing spree, and I've found one rat that scared me. Actually, it was quite big, running out of a tall clump of grass, and I had clearly mown over its nest or something close to it. So in order to help the owls, it actually helps to have a wide sort of area of grass between the trees and the nearest bushland, and that's roughly what I do here. If you can look around me here, this is my baby MCT1 trial block. Trees are looking happy in that. So that's one method. Another method is to harbour beneficial insects, and that I think has some really good promise. In earlier videos you'd have seen the trichogramma wasp cards, which is where we seed wasps into the orchard that parasite the larvae of certain pests, and it's a very good method of biological control for nut borer. There's another pest, another wasp that's being investigated and trialled for fruit spotting bug, which you could say is almost the major pest of macadamias if you look at it sort of long term. Lace bug, well, we're sort of still on the lookout for that, and it's a topical issue at the moment because there's a lot of out-of-season flowering on some macadamia trees. I'm walking through block 6 at the moment where you won't see a lot of out-of-season flowering. These are the 660s, which have been quite well behaved, and they're not in any danger of flowering at the moment. They've dropped about all their crop and they're going through their winter phase. Although here you are, here's an example of an out-of-season flower. Now, that can have lace bug on it, and ordinarily in an ordinary flowering season we spray for lace bug because it eats the flower and you don't get a nut. But in out of season flowering, all you really do is leave it there because it's not economical to spray. The one thing that I've thought of doing, and I'm almost kicking myself for not doing, is introducing native green lace wings. Now, I can't show you one, they're a little bit small to film, and I don't know if I have any on the trees here at the moment. They do occur naturally, but lacewings are like a little praying mantis that eats a whole host of insects that can do damage to macadamia trees. They have no interest at all in what a macadamia tree grows. And in fact, they can even feed on pollen when there's nothing else available. But lacewings will, as a general purpose predator, go around eating just about every harmful insect that can harm a macadamia. Now, apparently, you're meant to start seeding them into your orchard in February so that you build up a decent population. And where it would come in useful is if you get out of season flowering, or you get some pests late in the year that, you know, are uneconomical to spray for. Well, lacewings can bring any damage down to a level in which, you know, you wouldn't spray. That's what integrated pest management's about. It's not about total pest elimination. You can get it, I suppose, but something like lacewings as an insect control for another insect at least brings damage down to an economically sustainable level. So are we going to see some consumer term where, you know, consumers will be told that, you know, your nuts have been subject to integrated pest management? I don't know if we're going to get there. It's still one of those hazy terms, and of course it still does allow the use of some chemical pesticides which some consumers just don't want a part of, and you have to accept that that's just some consumers' preference. We who actually produce the crop have to live in the real world, and we've got to somehow balance the needs of the consumer market with the ability to provide them with any crop at all. So those are my little ramblings for this particular update. Just getting back to the MCT1 block, it's interesting to see that most of these trees have been planted at the same time. I've had one or two die and had to replace them, but we've got to the point now where you know, some of them are genuinely taking off, like this fella here, quite a strong tree, and others are really quite spindly, but certainly showing signs of a new flush of growth even in winter when they're meant to be a bit dormant. Over here in the corner up ahead, I've planted one solitary macadamia of the P variety. Why? It spoils, I guess, the integrity of the block, which is all MCT1, but I did it for pollination. The latest out on MCT1 is that it's very self-infertile, and that while there's trees over the horizon there in block 6 that would do a fair job of pollinating these things, I thought something at a close range might work. So here's a little macadamia P. You can see it there with its characteristic huge leaves. It's another small tree like the MCT1. Whether it flowers the same time or not, well, we really won't have that data, and that's because MCT1 wasn't trialled with the rest of those new varieties. It had its own sort of development process. Wasn't really grown formally in New South Wales at all. So, you know, it's a variety. The AMS has said plant the MCT1 in New South Wales in a trial plot and see how you go. I don't see much evidence of farmers heeding that advice, because we've got huge orders, and I reckon it's not for trial plots. People are going all in and planting huge numbers of these things because of their high cropping reputation in the Queensland area where it was developed. So we'll see. Anyway, as you can tell, it's a lovely sunny day, also a bit windy. Sorry for any microphone noise, can't help that. But I do hope to be in touch with you again soon, and I hope you have a pleasant day. Bye for now.